Hey everyone, so it's Hearth and welcome back to my channel. So on today's video, we're going to be talking about the differences between paganism, Wicca and witchcraft. So this is probably the most requested video that I've had in the last few months. Now, at the very start of my channel, I did actually film this video, except I did it on a phone in my parents' living room with no lighting and no editing software. So I had to just reel off definitions and hope that I didn't make a mistake. So today we're going to be doing an updated version of the differences between paganism, Wicca, and witchcraft. So let's start with the biggest of the three. Paganism. So paganism is a term that gets thrown around a lot and there's lots of different definitions of it. Now the three main definitions all come from different categories of people across ages. So the first is the idea of paganism being often polytheistic religions that belonged to the people that worked the land. They were often rural people that believed in polytheistic traditions, and these were often cultural based. So every area would have its own different deities, and most of them were polytheistic in nature, usually relating to the cycles of the seasons and connected to the land. You then have the definition of paganism that comes from an Abrahamic perspective. So that being when Christianity, Islam, and Judaism became exceptionally popular. They were often trying to remove people from the traditions and the religions that came before, and so paganism was considered to be a religion that follows false gods. And so pagan was often considered a derogatory term to represent someone who didn't believe in the correct deities. And then lastly, we have the modern definition. This is the one that's typically used by actual pagans that practice paganism as their religion or spirituality today. Now, paganism as we see it today is considered an umbrella term. It is a large classification for hundreds, thousands, probably tens of thousands, if not more, different religions or spiritualities that all fall underneath this little umbrella term. Now, paganism today is typically described as religions that fall outside of the Abrahamic religions, but are often reclaimed from pre-Christian traditions. So there are lots of very specific religions that fall into paganism, as well as just general spirituality. Often people that follow pagan faiths are polytheistic in nature, although of course there are some monotheistic traditions in there as well. They are also often closely connected to the land, to the cycles of the seasons, to nature, and a lot of the traditions that fall underneath paganism are reclaimed traditions. These are religions or spiritualities, deities or paths that were once followed quite frequently, but slowly deteriorated due to time and lack of understanding or other religions taking over, and these are now being reclaimed into the movement of paganism and into spirituality as we see it today. So it contains a lot of religions that are reclaimed, so they aren't necessarily exactly the way that they were practiced 1,000 years ago, but there are significant pieces and factors and aspects of them that we are drawing into our current spirituality. Now, it's important to remember that when it comes to religions, there are a lot of religions that fall outside of the Abrahamic religions that don't fall within paganism. And so it really is going to vary religion and spirituality to spirituality as to what falls under the paganism category. And there are a lot of people that don't necessarily follow a set religion, but instead follow certain deities that belong to pre-Christian belief systems that also feel that they fall underneath the pagan umbrella. Myself included, I would consider myself a Celtic pagan because of the deities that I follow, even though I don't follow a very set regimented religion. So as you can see, the definition of paganism really varies depending on who you're talking to and which form of paganism you're referring to. I've spoken to a lot of people about the definition of paganism, and it's really hard to get a solid, straight answer that lines up with everyone. But the general consensus is that paganism is an umbrella term that covers a huge range of different religions and spiritualities. But there is one religion that definitely falls underneath this paganism umbrella, and that is Wicca. So one of the biggest confusions here is, what is Wicca? Is Wicca its own standalone thing? Is it part of paganism? So Wicca is a religion that falls underneath the pagan umbrella. So if you are Wiccan, a lot of people also consider themselves pagan. But if you are pagan, you don't necessarily have to be Wiccan, because Wicca is just one of thousands of religions and spiritualities that come underneath the umbrella of paganism. So what is Wicca? Wicca is a religion that was formally acknowledged in the 1950s. Now, many people consider Wicca to have been created by a man called Gerald Gardner in the late 1930s. It is a religion that draws on a lot of pre-Christian traditions as well as witchcraft to create a accumulation of traditions that is now known as Wicca. A lot of people do consider the practices of Wicca to be ancient because it does have some of that pre-Christian spirituality in it, but formally it was only considered to be a religion and is often considered to have been created in the late 1930s and was released to the public in the 1950s. Now, since this point, Wicca has gone on to spread around the world and is now one of the biggest growing religions of the 21st century. Now, thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of people follow this religion in their day-to-day lives. Now, there are lots of different paths when it comes to Wicca. So there are the traditional British Wiccan types, which were what initially created this tradition in the modern wave, and then there are now thousands of other forms of the tradition. These individual forms fall underneath the umbrella of Wicca, which then falls under the umbrella of paganism. Is this getting confusing yet? I'm really hoping that I can simplify this down as much as I can. So for instance, if you are a green Wiccan, you fall into the Wiccan category, and then the entire Wiccan category is underneath the umbrella that is paganism. So those are the two main religions that get really confused. So if you follow the Wiccan religion, you might then also consider yourself to be a pagan, but not all pagans are going to follow the same religion, and so not all pagans are Wiccan. So let's move on to the next category, and that is witchcraft. Witchcraft in itself is not a religion. It is a magical practice. It's a craft. It is in itself entirely secular. It has no deities and it has no religion attached to it. You can, however, choose to add deities and religions onto it if you see fit. So because of this, you can be non-religious and practice witchcraft. You can also follow Wicca and practice witchcraft. You could follow one of the many other pagan spiritualities and religion and practice witchcraft, or you can follow any number of other different religions and practice witchcraft. Can you see where I'm going with this? So witchcraft in itself doesn't have any deities or religions attached onto it. It is a craft, it is a practice. Now, a lot of Wiccans will include witchcraft within their magical practice, and so you'll often find that some Wiccans will refer to themselves as witches because deeply ingrained in some people's Wiccan religion are witchcraft practices. This is entirely personal though. Every Wiccan is going to be different, much like every Christian might be slightly different in the way that they read things in the Bible. So it's going to be slightly different for everyone, but you do often find, unfortunately, in a lot of books, the words Wiccan and witch are used interchangeably, and this can lead to a lot of confusion. So you can be a witch and not be Wiccan, or you can be a witch and be Wiccan if you see fit. It's entirely personal. And unfortunately, a lot of books, especially those that were written in the late 1990s and the 2000s, they do use the terms interchangeably. So if you are just getting started on your magical journey, if a book mentions the worship of a god and a goddess and refers to everything as being witchcraft, that is more aligned with traditional original Wicca than it is related to witchcraft. So it's really important to be careful because a lot of books do use the terms interchangeably when they don't need to be. So let's wrap all of this up in a cute little parcel. So paganism is an umbrella term. It covers thousands, tens of thousands of different religions and spiritualities. Usually they are polytheistic in nature, but they can be monotheistic. It essentially covers a huge range of different religions that fall outside of the Abrahamic faiths that are often related to the land, to nature, to the cycles of life. A lot of them are reclaimed traditions, those that are being brought back from historic resources and are being practiced again today in a slightly altered modern form. We then have Wicca. Wicca is a religion in its own right. There are lots of different subcategories of Wicca now. It is considered to be a modern religion as it was only created in the 1950s, and it falls underneath the umbrella of paganism. So not all pagans are Wiccans, but a lot of Wiccans consider themselves pagan. And then you have witchcraft. That's its whole different thing. It's a craft, it's a magical practice, it's something you have to learn, it's something you have to develop. You can be any other religion and practice witchcraft, or you can have have no religion and practice witchcraft. So I know that that was a lot of information crammed into a really short video, but I hope that it was useful for any of you guys that are a little confused about the differences. Now, it's really important to remember in all of this that when it comes to the definition of paganism, there are so many different definitions out there, and it very much varies person to person. In this video, I've tried to be as concise as I can with all of the definitions that I have found, but based on everyone that I've spoken to, so many people have different answers that it can get exceptionally difficult to pin it down. But I hope that you did find this useful. If you did, feel free to give it a like. It really means so much to me. If you do have any questions, comments, concerns, video ideas, or just want to chit chat with the community, feel free to post it down in the comment section. We also have a Discord server where you can chat with other members of the magical community. The link is down in the description box. And if you do enjoy the magical content on this channel in this video, feel free to hit subscribe. I do try my best to post magical content every single week. Now, a lot of people are also finding that they are being unsubscribed from my channel. YouTube is doing its thing again. It's doing its rounds where it's unsubscribing people. So if you do think that you are already subscribed, please scroll down and just check that that button has been clicked, because it is unsubscribing a whole bunch of people. And last but not least, many thank you to all of my Patreons. Your name will be on the end screen. I hope you're all staying safe. I hope you're having a marvelous magical day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye! Am I really red? I am. I am literally going bright red, and it's only because this room is so warm and I am so pale. Like, I'm just naturally so pale. So if you see me going bright red throughout the course of this video, it's because these filming lights are incredibly hot. And this is why I usually wear turtlenecks. Because then if I go red, you can't see it. I can just like cover it with my copious amounts of hair. I can stuff it down my shirt and be like a little werewolf. What is wrong with me today? Dude. Rigid, reformed, rigid. Rigid, is that the word? I don't know what the word is that I'm after. And it's also important to remember that paganism doesn't... Right. Let's try this again. If you are Wiccan, wow. What? I made myself laugh so bad and I don't know why.